Welcome to the Knighthawks media availability ahead of our doubleheader against the Philadelphia Wings tomorrow, and then, of course, back to back against the Buffalo Bandits on Saturday. A packed weekend for the Knighthawks as it will be their fourth and fifth games of the season. We've got Dan Coates, captain, and alternate captain Ryan Smith, both here with us ahead of this one. And Coatesy, we'll start out with you. I mean, before even talking about coming off of last week, when you look at a weekend that is you're playing on Friday and then you're playing on Saturday. Just what's the key to separating those two games and being able to concentrate on one at a time?
Yeah, obviously a tough little stretch here, but all of our focus has to go towards Philadelphia. We know that they are a good team, as we saw a couple of weeks ago, more athletic. But yeah, the mindset has to be completely 100% on the Wings, and from there we'll shift our gears towards Buffalo after the game. But we know it's a tough little stretch here.
Yeah, and speaking of that tough little stretch, you come into the year, lose on the road in Colorado. Just when you're coming off of a loss going into a weekend like this, does it give you maybe more fuel than coming off of a win would, or do you have to forget about it and just kind of keep moving?
Yeah, I think maybe individually it's it maybe adds more fuel. But collectively, I think we have to stay even keel, win or lose. You just gotta stick to the process and know that you're gonna get a great opponent every single weekend. You just can't show up and think you're gonna win on talent alone. You got to put the work in. And um, yeah, like again, this Philly team's really good. Like um, they seem like they're a better squad from last year. They're young, they're athletic. They played us well last game. So yeah, I think after a win or loss, it doesn't matter who your opponent is. You just got to prepare like you always do, and we know we got our hands full coming into Philly.
Yeah, definitely. Smitty, for you, obviously you've played this team already once in the season, and then this early on, you play them again. Just what familiarities can you really draw from, and how much of it is kind of a comfortability with this game that you can maybe look back to the scout that you've already done at one point in this season?
Yeah, it's you know it's nice playing them only a couple weeks ago. You're kind of familiar with their tendencies and whatnot, but I mean maybe a little bit different for the defense and Coatsy, but for the offense, we're gonna play our game and let them adjust to us and take the game to them is kind of our mindset going into each and every game. So we're gonna look at tendencies and some overall things that they do well as a defense and what we think we can expose. But at the end of the day, we have to play our game and play our game well in order to be successful.
Does it almost have kind of like a playoff feel to it with playing a team this close back or twice in this close of proximity, and then you're rolling right into another game the day after that?
For sure. There's a little bit of bad blood when you play a game a week or two ago, then you play them again, and especially with kind of the emotions that came out in the fourth quarter with both teams in our game at home against them. You got to keep those emotions in check and bunker down and play your style of lacrosse.
Yeah, definitely. Coatsy, this defensive end, obviously, Brennan O'Neill has been an emerging star as the season has progressed. When you guys played him, it was Jake Piscino. How many times can you get out onto him? Just how do you, when you look at the fact that you've already played this team once, and that same kind of question to Smitty, just how does it, is it easier to get ready for Philly since you've played them already?
I think you have a better idea of some tendencies from personnel and just kind of how they want to play. Obviously, Brennan's a big part of their offense. It seems like a lot of the ball is going through him, and you kind of watch the tape on him, and he's feeling more and more comfortable in the box game. Um, but yeah, I'm sure they're well coached. I'm sure TK and Ian Rubel's going to have a good plan to kind of counteract maybe what they saw last game, and I think you see that around the league as the league kind of or the season develops. You start to see some teams are doing something, then all of a sudden that's added in to their offense. So you're kind of always looking to see what teams are doing. But yeah, like playing them couple of weeks ago, it definitely helps, but I'm sure it's, to their benefit as well. They're familiar with us. So we have to be ready to go. That's probably the thing that we'll talk about in the locker room is we got to be ready to go off the hop here.
Definitely. Spencer, got any questions?
Yeah, I got one for Coatsy.
Go for it.
As the captain on this team, it was a crazy finish the last time you guys played Philadelphia. How important is it to keep your composure?
Yeah, I think like that kind of like what happened in the last game. I think it just kind of happened organically, and that's just kind of the nature of our game. For us, I think we're at the best as a team when we kind of toe that line of we need to play with that passion, we need to play with that heart. We're certainly not going to back down as a team. But at the end of the day, we got to realize that there's 60 minutes of lacrosse, and we're trying to put a W at the end of the board. So we don't want to affect, our team and our identity that we're kind of getting out of sorts, and we're worried about things we can't control and what's going on with the refs or if there's calls we don't like. But for us, we just got to, with not just myself and the leadership group, we just got to make sure that we're present and we got to just respond the right way. So yeah, it's we're going to see it again, not just tomorrow if there is something that happens, but we're going to see it again at some point this season.
And I got one for Ryan Smith too.
Go for it.
Smitty, uh, talking about the I-90 rivalry. This is the first time that, at least with Knighthawks 2.0, you got two separate owners. How important is it to get the first one on Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, we want to win every single game, but kind of renewing that rivalry again this year. But not thinking about that game yet. We got to take care of Philly first, but it's going to be an exciting environment in Blue Cross, but we got to take care of business tomorrow night first before we shift our attention.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Smitty, obviously last week you get to take the field in an NLL game with Brad McCulley for the first time. Just what were the emotions kind of maybe have you processed after just thinking about the fact that you got to have you and yourself and McCulley on the field at the same time, but also just that whole group that we've talked about before on the offensive end?
Yeah, no, haven't really processed it. We kind of gave each other a funny look before the game. Are we about to do this? So no, it's awesome being able to get him back out on the floor, and I think he adds a lot to our offense, and hopefully he can keep that going. But it's such a great group we have up there. We're also familiar with each other, have a ton of chemistry. So we're just excited for the challenge tomorrow.
Definitely. Ripper, anything from you?
All right. So how great is it to have a weekend like this? Thursday you get to hang out with the guys. Friday you got to have a game, and then immediately you have a game Saturday night. It's like an awesome week of lacrosse and a chance to obviously even get more and more face time with your teammates.
Yeah, I'll take this one first, Coach. I got to run on this flight in a minute here. But we're such a close group, and we're such a family. It's awesome to be able to hang out with each other all weekend. I know, we're gonna have a long bus trip back after, but we'll make the most of it and get tighter as a group. So, no, we're looking forward to being together all weekend.
What about
Yeah.
you, Coach? You're a vet. You've been through enough of these.
Yeah, honestly, you got to take these weekends and when you look back on them, they're the best times of the year. And so I think as a group, just to be able to spend another day and 2 days together, it's what it's all about. Like Smitty said, this is a team that really cares about one another on and off the floor. We enjoy being around each other, not just showing up and playing lacrosse. So the fact that we get to travel a bit, go do some team bonding, obviously got to compete and do a job on the floor, but just the fact that we can kind of continue to build some relationships, it goes a long way.
All right. Thanks, guys. That's all I have.
Perfect. Thanks, Rip. Thanks, Coatsy. And of course, thank you to Smitty, who had to already head out. That is going to be it for our Nighthawks media availability. Be sure to catch the Hawks at 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus at Xfinity Mobile Arena on Friday, and then on Saturday as they take on the Buffalo Bandits at home at Seager and Shortino Field.